Hello and welcome to another video. Most of the time I wear very swooshy skirts, so currently I'm very obsessed with circle skirts and I used to wear a lot of Edwardian skirts, but I have had this idea that I really wanted to have a pencil skirt. So only a few months ago I actually made a pencil skirt that is kind of like a wrap skirt type skirt from some wool left over that I had from making a coat. It wasn't too hard to fit in because it was a wrap skirt. It opened up at the bottom and I still had a lot of space to move. And I felt okay about it. It felt very kind of like land girly because it had that whole tweed aesthetic to it. But then I posted a video actually on here on YouTube. I think it was just a short. And you know how I've got, because I wear the corset, a very small waist, but then my hips are just gigantic, which you can't really see under circle skirts. I feel like my hips are definitely helpful when it comes to creating the silhouette, but when I wear a tight skirt, there's no hiding anything. So someone commented on the video saying it doesn't sit right, it should be flush to the body, and on your body it looks like there's polstering underneath, so it should be tighter. And I'm just like, that's just my hips. So I felt really self-conscious about wearing the skirt afterwards, which is a shame because I still really want to have a tighter skirt. So I'll take a moment to show you guys what the skirts look like on me, just to like give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So this is the wrap skirt I made myself, which has the polstering, as they called it on the video. And I do actually have the skirt from Emmy Design, which is a bit of a tighter silhouette, but I don't know, it's something about it. I think it's a bit too tight. It feels a little bit too sexy, maybe, if you could call it that. So I get lots of compliments every time I wear the skirt, but it just doesn't feel like something that I feel very comfortable wearing. So I recently came across this pattern on Etsy and it looked very similar to the design that the Emma Design skirt had, but just a little bit less tight and a little bit more loose-fitting to allow to hide some of the things I'm a little bit more self-conscious about. So I thought we'd give this a try. This is the fabric I got. We're going to make a pencil skirt together and kind of explore what you have to look out for when you, like me, are blessed with really big hips, to the point where you feel uncomfortable about them. So yeah, let's do some sewing. I have got the pattern in front of me, which is the Darlene pattern by Atelier Serena, which I found on Etsy. And this is what the front looks like. So you can see that it's got cutout that ends in a pleat. So basically these two seams are going to be sewn together, and then there's this little extra here that is going to turn into the pleat that we see around the knee. And the same is happening for the back. But because pencil skirts are quite problematic, if you're like me, quite wide-hipped and small-waisted, I had to make some adjustments here. The pattern comes in a size 1 to 12, and they've got a measuring scale to show which of the sizes is closest to your measurement. So I'm a size 6 for hips and a size 2 for waist. So that means I cut it out in a size 6, and then at the waist, up here, I ended up cutting in to create a size 2. But because I didn't do the same thing on the straight edge, just because it needs to stay straight. So this still has the additional kind of like 2 centimeters per piece per side. That is too big. So I think I'll just take that out from the kind of pleat section that we make. But I'll take that out as we're fitting the garment to make sure that it actually fits well, rather than just changing it on the pattern. Another change I made is that the original pattern doesn't have a waistband. It just kind of goes all the way up and then has a waistband facing almost. But I really like having a waistband, so I cut the top 2 centimeters off that were kind of like meant to be the waistband, and then I'll just add my own waistband into that. Additionally, I have used my trusted pocket pattern and cut some pockets, which I'm going to put in the side seams. I'm not sure how great this is going to look because with my previous pencil skirts, the pockets were always a little bit in the way, but also I will not have a skirt without pockets, so they're just going in. The Emma Design skirt actually has the pocket, so it's like the bit of the top, it's like flush to the fabric, so it's like the top of the skirt becomes the pocket and then there's something sewn over it. But that just means if I have a phone in there, it's actually really tight because the skirt is tight. So it looks really silly if I put something into the pocket, but I always have tons of stuff in my pockets. So I'm hoping that this skirt will actually fit a little bit more loosely so that it won't show as much when I've got something in my pocket. It's just crucial for me to have pockets in my skirt. I don't think I have to explain this to any of you. And then the pattern came with little faux pocket flap, which I thought looked really cute on the picture, but then also they're meant to kind of go up where the hip is the widest. So I'm like, will this just make my hip look even bigger by putting more focus onto it? So I've cut them out and I will make them, but we'll have to see what it actually looks like. I have prepared something. I've already cut out all my fabric pieces, and then I cut some more pieces that I will use to finish the closure. So the pattern calls for an invisible zipper, but let me tell you, none of my invisible zippers have ever been invisible. So normally I just finish skirts off by kind of like facing the visible side and then creating a little overlap flap. It kind of looks like this on the edge of the underlying side. And then I have some hooks and eyes on it. And that's just how I always do my closures. And I don't know, it just has worked so far, so I will not change my ways. I'll just go ahead and I'll assemble the skirt, I'll prepare the pocket flaps, and I'll just sew everything together but without finishing any of the seams, because then I can try it on and change the skirt in order to fit me better. I've just ironed out the entire skirt because I wanted to see what it looked like when all the seams were pressed in. And this is now a great opportunity to talk about my personal pet peeve when it comes to fabric. Originally, the pattern asked for the front to have a seam, which I didn't do because I thought that was unnecessary. I could just put it on the fold. I've ironed everything out, and there's actually a white streak going out through the entirety of the fabric where the fold was, which so right here. It goes all the way down. Yay. So if you've seen my Sophie Hatter video, that also happened with that skirt, and so it looks a bit silly now, but it's also too big, so I think I'm just going to put that seam into the front, which I wasn't planning to do, but I guess that's the only way to get rid of this white streak. Annoying, but there is nothing we can do about it now. Quick update time, because it's time to take a break, to run some errands and to go out with Archie. The skirt is mainly assembled. I need to finish all of the seams still off, so they're all still raw from the inside, but that allowed me to make some changes as I was assembling the skirt. I'm going to spare you from having to watch me eat the entire muffin, and I will see you again when we finish off the seams. But before we do anything else, we're going to try on this skirt with my corset on, just to make sure everything looks fine. And I maybe shouldn't have had my lunch first and then put my corset on. But, oh well, we continue. Okay, so I think it's not perfect, but it's fine. Something I've also noticed on the Emma design skirt is these folds, and I think they would go away if I just pulled this up ever so slightly in the middle here. So if I just took a little bit off here just to pull it up a little bit, and I think that would solve that issue. And then the next question, God, I'm feeling a little bit naked here. The next question was which buttons to go with. So these two buttons were my choices. This one's like a bit more dark brown with a lighter rim, and this one's completely brown. But then I put on my little shoes, which can or cannot see, little shoes, and they're brown. So I think if my shoes match the button, then it all kind of like pulls it back together. Only other problem I'm kind of seeing, I'm not sure if you see this in this angle, this pockets. The problem I keep kind of like having with these skirts, because I'm so insistent that I want pockets, but then the pockets flap open. So this kind of like gives the not very good silhouette, but mainly down here. So I think what I'm going to do, because I'm also thinking I might actually sew all the seams down. So if I did that here, I could sew the seam down here a little bit into the pocket, and then where the pocket kind of flaps open and doesn't stay closed here. So I could kind of sew over this a little bit just to keep the pocket more in place. So it doesn't look too bad, but if I kind of like have my hands in here and do stuff, that's when it starts looking a little bit silly. So the original pattern didn't have a pocket for reasons, I guess. The skirt is almost finished. I just have to add the buttons and the closures, and I'm honestly so happy I'm done with the sewing part, because for some reason my machine hated this fabric. So I've got the Singer heavy duty, and people always ask me whether I recommend the sewing machine, and yes, I do, because I've never had issues with it before, but for some reason it was really struggling with this material. It kind of feels almost a bit waxy, so I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it. If it's just like 2 or 3 layers, the machine was fine, but kind of like at the hem where I just like folded it up and I had up to 6 layers, honestly, so loud it sometimes gave me a fright. It sounded like the needle was breaking, but it wasn't, it was just the machine. So I'm happy this is done, and I hope this skirt didn't wreck my sewing machine. So we're just adding the buttons now, and I've got some vintage hooks and bars, because I don't like hooks and eyes. I always use bars, but the only way of buying them is vintage off eBay. If you are aware of any places that sell hooks and bars, so not like the big ones, but like the tiny ones for blouses and things, let me know in the comments, because that would be super helpful rather than just using vintage items I can find on eBay. But with that being said, I thought I might sit down and have a little chat with you, because the other video I posted recently didn't really have any life updates, because it was mainly kind of like Expedition 33 focused. So I thought I'd just chat, in case you guys don't follow me on Instagram and you're not actually aware of what I'm doing out with my YouTube videos. So I am actually now in the last year of my PhD, and you might remember one of my earlier videos that I filmed on my iPhone, my last iPhone, so it's not the best quality, but I was very young and very hopeful, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do a PhD in coriander and it's amazing and my life is gonna be so much better. Yeah, that didn't work out. I'm almost finished now, so that's good. I've just come to realize, because I am a lab-based scientist and I don't like doing experiments very much. So that was a bit of an issue. I don't mind teaching. I actually quite enjoy teaching. I really enjoy talking about science, especially if it's not my own science, but just making science and doing research is just not for me. And that's just something I'm very aware of. And yeah, so I'm really excited to finish this PhD and be done with it. But hopefully the last year I should finally be able to write up my thesis from home, which would be nice, because you know how much I hate leaving the house. So I'm hopeful that things might get better in the future, but let's just say it's been a bit of a rough ride and I haven't been enjoying myself. Tilly. And another thing people keep asking me about is what's happening with my book. So the short answer is nothing. The longer answer is, and I've already mentioned this on Instagram as well, I had a publisher who wanted to publish the book, which was honestly so exciting. And I was like, I thought, I've done it, I've made it, everything accomplished. But for some reason, I felt a bit funny about it. Like I don't know, I just had a weird feeling about it. And I think that was also partly because the publisher was really small. And even though I don't think publishing with a small publisher is necessarily something bad, but I just felt like the conditions they were offering, so I'm not even talking about money, obviously they didn't have a lot of money to offer. It just felt like in the end what I was being offered didn't feel worth selling my rights for. I just didn't have a good feeling about it, so I ended up not going ahead with it and I turned the offer down, which seemed a little bit insane. Writing a book has been an up and down. It's been kind of like writing a scene and being like, yes, this is amazing, I'm going to be the next Sarah J. Maas, and then writing another scene and it's a struggle and you're just kind of like, this is rubbish, no one should ever read this. Yeah, so it's an up and down between feeling like it's a story worth sharing and it's absolute nonsense. So I fell back into the pit of being like, this is absolute nonsense, I don't want anyone to see it. Had some beta readers read it and give me feedback, and which is really, really helpful, but also with every feedback you get, you're just like, you know, this is horrible, this is bad, this needs to be redone. I'm very critical about my own writing, so I feel like it needs more work, and I've actually been kind of like rethinking the storyline and kind of like thinking a little bit more about, not just about kind of like which books I've enjoyed reading, but also kind of like which books I would want to read, if that makes sense. Like, what is the kind of book that I haven't read yet that I want to read? So yeah, I'm still on it, and I hope that by the time I don't have to spend 3 hours a day commuting anymore, I might find the time to go back and rework that and make it better. And maybe get some more beta readers in. So if you guys are interested in becoming beta readers, follow me on Instagram. It's Dear Tally. I will post on there if I'm looking for new batches of beta readers. With that, I am just going to continue on sewing on buttons, and that should be the skirt done, I think. I am going to style this, and then I will see you guys in the reveal, with or without cat, to be decided. I thought we'd take a little moment to talk about how the skirt turned out. I guess the first question would be, is this actually a pencil skirt, or is this rather an A-line skirt? Because I guess maybe the reason why I prefer this over my other skirt is because it's not as tight, so it's not actually a pencil skirt. And that's why the silhouette looks better. Because I definitely feel like I feel more comfortable in a skirt, and I've already worn it multiple times, so that's a good sign compared to the other skirts that were a bit tighter and I didn't really feel comfortable wearing them. But it's just a question whether it's even still what we were trying to achieve, because it does rather have kind of like an A-line silhouette, but maybe that is the key to making a skirt that's tight-fitting for very wide hips. So I feel like if it has like a proper like fitted shape where it goes tighter again towards the knee, it just honestly, at least for me, I feel like I look like a balloon. In like the way that also that one comment was a bit like, it looks like it's bolstered, and I don't know, it just feels a little bit too much. Whereas this one, because it is more straight cut, it kind of feels like it, I don't know, it just makes everything a little bit more smooth and less exaggerated, and I quite like that. But I guess that leads to the next question, whether, you know, just because I don't really like my hips doesn't mean that everyone doesn't like their hips. So maybe other people would prefer to emphasize their shape. The only thing that I feel like I didn't do that great is at the back where the closure is, I put 3 hooks and bars, but the closure is actually quite long, so 3 is not enough, but I was too lazy to put on more. So when I looked at the footage, I actually realized that the back is bulging a bit. And I've been wearing it since, so I was like, maybe I should add some more in the future. And because the fabric is kind of waxy, as I mentioned before, even though it's not super tight, but when I put my phone in, I don't know if you can actually see this on here. Yeah, here, where my phone is in my pocket, you can actually see that it left kind of like a mark. So all in all, I've spent around £25 on the fabric. I ordered 2 meters, which was not that much. I usually use 2 meters for a circle skirt, so I thought surely because this is more narrow, I won't need much more. Because of the way it's shaped, and it's got these little cutouts where the pleat is going to be shaped, it just uses a lot of fabrics. It was a really, really tight squeeze. So I was actually talking to someone who also wanted to use this pattern, and I said, you know, 2.5 meters is probably the way to go, or maybe even 3, because 2 was just very, very tight. And I've spent around 5 hours working on it. So if we consider all of that, and we say that I'm being paid £15 an hour, so that means just in labor and fabric, the skirt is worth around £100, which I think isn't too bad, and I hope that I'll get a lot of wear out of it. once I fix the back. With that, I hope you enjoyed this video and, I don't know, you learned something? You were entertained, I guess. That is all I can really hope for. I should tell you to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.